Welcome to the Gut Show. I'm Erin Judge, registered dietitian and founder of Gutovate, and I will be your host. My goal on this side of the internet is to empower those with IBS and digestive disorders to understand their guts better, to have a healthier relationship with their bodies, and make confident choices to improve their digestive health. During this season of the Gut Show, you can expect a weekly conversation covering a hot topic related to health, digestion, and IBS. As a disclaimer, I am a dietitian, but I'm not your personal dietitian. Everything we cover in this episode is meant to be educational and not a substitute for personalized care from your healthcare team. Are you looking for science-backed holistic care for IBS all at your fingertips? If so, the Master Method membership is for you. I get it. I've been in your shoes, dealing with symptoms every single day, accepting them as normal, but knowing there's gotta be more than this. Maybe you find yourself searching through Google and social media and trying all of these isolated tips to figure out what is the secret to your symptoms, only to end up more frustrated and completely stuck. Something that I've learned as someone who lived with IBS myself, but also in over half a decade of experience working in IBS, is that oftentimes people miss the holistic approach to managing their symptoms. Meaning they focus on one isolated thing versus focusing on the full puzzle to get true results and sustainable results. The Master Method membership was created to help solve this problem by walking you through one step at a time, by guiding you through how to put this puzzle together for your body. Not only will you learn what's causing your symptoms and how to keep assessing what's going on in your body, you will also learn how to manage your symptoms, how to support your overall health with nutrition, and even how to change different habits and things in your life to give you more energy, more flexibility, and a higher quality of life. Not only that, but you also will be able to connect to other members in the membership through Club MM, our private community. So if you are interested in getting control and getting guidance right now, then go to the link in show notes to join the membership. You cannot out-supplement a poorly regulated nervous system. This is a statement that doesn't get enough attention in the wellness and IBS and gut health community, and it is gaining more traction from a lot of practitioners like myself that take a bit more of a holistic approach and work with these patients. But at the same time, it's not something that is discussed in a nuanced way or even in a deep dive way beyond you're just stressed out. So today's episode is a way for us to go a bit deeper into the value of your nervous system and nervous system regulation when it comes to digestive health and even digestion symptoms, and have a conversation around why this is so important, as well as what you can actually do about it and how you can start supporting your nervous system while keeping in mind the bigger picture. So first off, what is your nervous system? Your nervous system is the major regulatory system of the body that's the center of all mental activity, including thoughts, learning, and memory. We can think of this as like the command center of the body, right? Because while brain activity and thought processes are part of the nervous system, the goal of the nervous system is to not only take in information, but to process information through those thoughts and through the sensory components, and then to tailor the responses in the body to what the body may need to do based on what has come in. So it's not just what you think, but it's also about how that then leads to actions and changes inside the body. The nervous system does work with the endocrine system, which is your hormonal system, in order to help keep the body in balance. Think of hormones as kind of like executive assistants. They're there to communicate, they're there to keep everybody on track. And so they're kind of hustling around, making sure that information is being translated and followed up on properly in the body. So the combination of the nervous system and the endocrine system really helps not only the functions be told what to do, right? We're not just telling the body what to do as a response, we're also making sure it gets done properly when these systems are both working well separately from each other and when they're also working and coordinating well with one another. The nervous system does have an impact on every single system of the body and even the functions of organs, right? It is the command center. So it uses receptors to communicate with the environment around it, but also the internal environment, and then will adjust in order to respond both externally and internally as well. So again, we're working with other systems, we're working with the environment that we live in, the systems outside of our bodies, and we're taking in information from those systems while also then translating how the body can respond to what's happening in those different systems. So that would include changes in the functions of different organs or other systems in the body. There are a few major nervous system organs that are at play in this command center, and that includes the brain, the spinal cord, nerves, and ganglia, which kind of go out from the nerves. And that's where that sensory and communication is happening. So with all of those organs, the major functions include first, sensory. This means that we monitor the environment and we gather information. So we have nerve endings that take in information both on our skin from our environment, but also inside our bodies, even lining the GI tract to see what's going on inside the body. And then we just take that information in. The second job is integrative, meaning we convert the sensory information to nerve impulses that are then sent to the brain for that conversion and translation, if you will. So it's kind of like putting a code into a computer, and it's like kind of monitoring that code to then determine what the response should be. And then that leads to the last major function, which is the motor function, which is just the response from the body. So an example of this would be you have the sensory nerves on your skin. These nerves sense that you are touching a hot plate, right? So you touch a hot plate, they take in that information and then they send it to the brain. And then the integrative function is to say, this is heat, this is hot, this plate is too hot for our skin. And so then the response that's sent back is to move your hand or that feeling of pain in order to get the body away from the heat that then can cause damage to the skin, right? That is what this actually looks like in real time. So this is a process that happens very fast, and it doesn't really happen with a lot of thought. It's something that happens beneath the surface of our own cognitive ability, right? Not necessarily even subconscious, but it's happening inside and internally in the body. With your nervous system, it's not just one single system, but it does break out. So think about an organization, right, that has many different departments. That's a really easy way to think about it. So you have two nervous systems that make up the major nervous system, and this is called the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. In your central nervous system, this is where we have your brain and your spinal cord. Kind of think about central in the body, and they're responsible for sending messages. So they're kind of communicating here, but sending messages out. Your peripheral nervous system includes the nerves that branch out throughout the body, and they're responsible for relaying information. So they take the information the brain sends and then they send it out, right? So they relay it out beyond kind of that central piece. Within your peripheral nervous system, we then have two more nervous systems. You have your somatic nervous system, which guides your voluntary movements. Think about walking, running, doing a bicep curl. That's a voluntary movement. But then you also have your autonomic nervous system, which controls involuntary activities. So the beating of your heart is an example, right? You don't have to think about it for those actions to occur, but there is a system that is making sure that those actions occur, right? So it is still regulated in the body and by the body through the autonomic nervous system. Now, when you have your autonomic nervous system, think of this one a little bit more like a light switch. So it's either going to be in one function or the other. So it's working one way or another. Either in the parasympathetic nervous system state, which is called your rest and digest state, or in your sympathetic nervous system state, which is called your stressed state. Now, this is what matters the most when we're thinking about digestion and IBS and gut health. We have to understand the autonomic nervous system state. Are we in parasympathetic, rest and digest, or are we in sympathetic stress? We're going to come back to this, but I want you to keep that in mind where we're thinking about how the central nervous system all breaks down. And this is the regulation that we are really going to hone in on and talk about the most. So now taking that broad scope back out, what causes the nervous system as a whole to malfunction, which can then lead to poor regulation, right? The nervous system as a whole, what's going on? So first off, nerve damage. Your nerves are there to send and receive messages. So when they are damaged, they cannot send or receive messages. And this can happen, again, anywhere that the nerves are located. So a cut on the skin could actually damage nerves. Nerves can be damaged inside the body through surgeries, through trauma, different things like that. This can also happen from disease, stroke, other injury, pressure, toxic substances, like including drugs and aging. So there's a lot of things that can contribute to nerve damage. Sometimes nerve damage can be reversed, nerves can recover, sometimes it cannot. And so this looks so different for each individual person. Other things that cause the nervous system to malfunction include changes in temperature, pressure, or blood flow. So kind of changing the environment as a whole can kind of knock everything off. Stress, this triggers chemicals in the brain to bypass messages to the brain and then can set off an alarm. So this is more acute malfunctions that can happen. It kind of disrupts the major functions and the flow of the workflow, if you will, of the system. And then sleep deprivation, which is a huge one that is, I think, not given enough attention. And this can include less than 6 hours of sleep per night. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you haven't slept at all for many, many days, but poor sleep over time can lead to poor function of the nervous system. Now, nerve damage is going to lead to the most malfunction because, again, messages are not being sent or received at all if the nerves are damaged, whereas sleep deprivation will lead to a lower capacity of function and just lead to less efficiency and consistency. So kind of think about it in that way too. Not all contributors to malfunction are going to be the same and have the same effect on the nervous system. So what does this have to do with your gut? How does this then fit in with digestion? So first off, again, we're going to take that wide view, pull ourselves back. So we just uncovered nervous system for a minute, pull back a little bit further. We know that the gut and the brain are connected, and the nervous system can play a role in this connection. So the gut and the brain communicate bidirectionally through what we call the HPA axis. This runs alongside the vagus nerve, which is our longest cranial nerve. So not only is it just brain to gut, so brain is part of the nervous system, right? But also the main nerve, the vagus nerve, this long cranial nerve, which kind of runs a little bit near the spinal cord, it then regulates that communication. So that there's a communication there. Not only that, but within the entire GI tract, you have nerves because they're there as sensory, right? Sensory focus to take in what's coming on, what's coming inside the body and going through the body. So because of the strong connection, as part of the autonomic nervous system, we have the enteric nervous system. This governs the functions of the GI tract and is mostly located in the gut. And this is what we call the second brain. So if you've ever heard the gut referred to as like the second brain, or the gut, is another brain or whatever, this is what they're talking about. The enteric nervous system mimics the central nervous systems, right? It's part of the whole system, but it mimics that kind of main regulatory system, but it's smaller and more localized to the gut, specifically looking at gut function, motility, secretions, all of those different things, everything that needs to happen for gut function, from digestion of foods, metabolism, but even the formation and passing of stool. Not only that, but because the gut is also part of the immune system, right? Part of that defense system, which we've talked about in previous episodes. So go back to earlier episodes in this season. Inflammatory responses are also impacted by this enteric nervous system in the gut, which is part of autonomic nervous system and part of the entire nervous system connected to the full system. Okay, so let's think about that for a moment. If your gut is not only communicating with the nervous system, but also includes much of your nervous system, then it makes sense to say that your nervous system and the health of it, the function of it, the efficiency of it can play a direct role in how your digestion is going, right? And the health of your gut overall. If you are not sensing information correctly and producing the right amount of enzymes or bile to break down your foods, you're going to have more food intolerance, right? If you are not moving your gut muscles properly, you may have diarrhea or constipation. If you are not forming stool properly and then giving your body signals of when it's time to release it, you may deal with significant backup or even incontinence where you're having accidents. If your immune system in your gut is overreacting and you're having these immune activations that aren't needed due to poor immune activation related to your nervous system as well, that can lead to more gut permeability or leakiness in the gut. It can lead to more food intolerance. It can lead to more symptoms, and it can lead to things like pain. If your brain and your gut aren't responding to each other properly and communicating properly, that can lead to visceral hypersensitivity, which is the main cause of pain, especially in those with IBS and other digestive disorders. So this connection between your nervous system and this kind of gut-brain connection with the gut itself, its function, and even symptoms that you're experiencing is very closely tied. So this is the reason why you can't necessarily out supplement or out diet support for your nervous system. What that doesn't mean is that diet and supplements and all the other things don't matter, right? What you eat matters. Supplements can be very supportive. Medications can be very supportive and are sometimes needed, right? Your routines, your movement are all very important. But if you are completely neglecting your nervous system, where you're refusing to, or even just not aware of how to regulate it and get it into a place where it's supporting your digestion instead of sabotaging it or working against it, you will constantly be fighting that because your nervous system has a stronger control over what's actually going on in your gut than, what you ate for breakfast. Are you really fed up with your IBS symptoms controlling your life? Are you frustrated with feeling like you're going in circles day in and day out, and you seem to try things on your own? You're taking in all the information, but you're still finding yourself stuck. If that's you, I invite you to join the Master Method membership. This is a science-backed holistic program for IBS that we've developed with you in mind. It covers what to do to support digestion, how to support the drivers of IBS, including gut-brain connection, your microbiome, altered motility, and even altered immune activation. We also talk about how to support your nutrition and your overall health through your diet, with a focus on what to actually add to your diet versus only what to take away. And we guide you through all 3 steps of the low FODMAP diet process in many different ways if you want to use that evidence-based tool for IBS. This program has been proven to work with many with IBS because it truly does approach health and well-being from a whole body perspective, while also targeting IBS specifically. So if you're ready to get guidance so that you can take control of your symptoms, join a community of others who are working on their IBS and ready to connect with those who get it, and lifestyle resources to help you every step of the way, then join the membership today at the link in show notes. So it's so important to make sure that we're not just focusing on the diet, the supplements, the quick fixes, these hacks, but we're also looking below the surface a bit and supporting the function of your nervous system. All right. So what do we actually want that to look like, right? Where do we want your nervous system to be? What does it truly mean to even regulate it? This is where we go back to that autonomic nervous system and the state, right? That light switch. What function are we in? Are we in parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest, or are we in that sympathetic mode, which is stress? When you are in the stressed state, what is happening in your body is that we are prioritizing that fight or flight response. And this can happen in an extreme way. Let's say you almost get into a wreck and you're like, adrenaline's pumping, your heart is racing, you're focused, and you're trying to kind of correct and avoid the catastrophe, right? That's an extreme response. Versus you are not slept well, you are rushing from meeting to meeting, you have a big work day, you're taking care of your kids, everyone's fighting, you're trying to kind of control the chaos. That's also stress, right? And so your body is adapting to be able to respond to what's going on around you to stay alive and survive. That is the key. So what happens inside the body is that the digestive system and all unnecessary organs, so a lot of these, like your bladder, urinary tract, even some of your hormones in your digestive tract are turned down. That means motility slows down. So your gut motility movement slows. The secretions of like your stomach acid, your enzymes, your bile, all of that is turned down. So again, you're not going to be breaking down your food as well as you could be. And then those signals from your gut get turned down a bit in order to prioritize more energy for your heart and your brain and your muscles, right? Fight or flight, focus, stay in tune with what's going on around you. This can happen in acute short-term states, which are usually fine. And you might notice a heightened response from your body that you have to come down from. But for most people, they're kind of slightly in that state enough day after day after day to where you may not even notice the fact that your heart is beating faster than it should be. Your brain is burning through energy, leading to that intense fatigue later on, right? Your digestive system is really below capacity and not functioning as well as it could be. That's where most people are at. The opposite, which is the parasympathetic state or the rest and digest state, is what it sounds like. The body is in a place where all of the organs, all of the systems in the body are turned on as they should be, and we're not hyper focusing or shuttling energy for the heart and the brain. They're working as they need to be. So if you're a digestive system, that means stomach acid's being produced, enzymes are being produced, bile is being produced, we're breaking foods down properly, the movement of your digestive tract is happening well, and your body is in more of a relaxed state versus that heightened state, right? We're not releasing cortisol, which is our stress hormone, to kind of get the body in that fight or flight. Instead, we're in a calmer place. So we're able to think clearly, we're not overusing energy, less fatigue, and then the body itself has less pain because hypersensitivity is dulled, right? Because we're not in that hypersensitive hyper state. We're calmed. So regulating your nervous system doesn't just mean that we avoid the sympathetic nervous system state or that stress state completely. That is impossible. You are not going to avoid stress state because it's important, right? And we even need to test the body in the stress state every now and then to develop resilience to that, right? And be able to handle that. That's what you're doing with endurance exercise. You're pushing yourself to a point of stress in order to kind of help the body adapt to it more and respond to it better, right? So we know that we have to be there. Also, it's impossible to take all stress away from you, right? You can do your best to have a stress-free life, but there are going to be stressors that come into your life that are out of your control. Someone's going to cut you off, you're going to almost get in a wreck, right? It's going to happen. So it's important to know that you're going to get into that stress state. Regulation means that we're able to pull the body back, like notice when we're in the stress state, and then get ourselves into that rest and digest state as much as possible. So this is going to be done through daily habits and routines to support that, but also awareness in the moment to bring yourself back down to that rest and digest state. Okay, so how do we actually support this then? What are the daily habits and routines, which is where you focus on first? The first thing is through a healthy, well-balanced diet. So I did say, right, you can't out-diet a poorly regulated nervous system. However, diet can be part of a supportive, healthy, strong nervous system. So it's really important to think about optimizing diet in order to support your nervous system. We don't have to be, crazy with this and have a lot of rules around this. And it doesn't really include a lot of restriction, but there are some things that we can add that have been shown to be helpful and supportive for the nervous system as a whole, including both the nerves, but also those main functions, right? And that includes adequate omega-3 fatty acids, which we find in fatty fish, primarily fish oils, walnuts, vitamin D, which we get from the sun, B vitamins, which you get through varieties of fruits and vegetables, but also meat and protein foods, polyphenols. These are antioxidant compounds in plants. And think about these being found in your deeply colored, richly colored plants for the most part. So your berries, especially blueberries, your dark leafy greens. We actually get polyphenols from coffee, which is really great. And so really incorporating more plants, especially these antioxidant rich plants that contain these polyphenols. Curcumin, the addition of curcumin, which is also turmeric, this is shown to have proven effects on neural or nerve health. So adding this in through spices, you don't have to supplement this necessarily, but you can add this as a spice to your foods. Adding in adequate minerals like calcium and potassium. This could be supplemented, but also finding these really mineral-rich foods. And then herbal teas can also be helpful with the increase of serotonin and dopamine, which are our feel-good hormones that then can help support the nervous system being in a better state. So a little bit of a secondary effect. Other ways that you can support your nervous system are by avoiding drugs or other substances that harm your nerves, as well as moderating or keeping low, for the most part, alcohol intake. We know drugs and alcohol don't add benefits, right? For the most part. And so it's important to really keep these things lower and understand how some things could add damage, because again, that damage might be reversible in some ways, but also in some cases it's not going to be, and you're always going to be working against that. Adding in consistent exercise. This includes maybe yoga or stretching, walking, that low intensity exercise to keep your cortisol or stress hormones low. So again, helping support that rest and digest state. But really consistent movement can be really helpful. And then keeping it, again, lower intensity, especially if you know you've been in that stress state the most. If you can look at your life and say, yep, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm burnt out, I'm not sleeping well, I feel fatigued every single day, I feel like I'm on hyperdrive, you're probably in a stress state. Focus on low intensity exercise where your heart's not pumping out of your chest. You're still moving your body in a way that feels good, and you're moving it in all directions, building muscle. You can do weight training as well. Sleep. We talked about how sleep deprivation can cause malfunction of the nervous system. So adequate sleep. And this is looking at hours as well as the quality of your sleep. So getting at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night, and then focusing on your quality by reducing caffeine in the evenings, turning off screens before you go to bed, finding time to relax, turning down sounds and lights while you're sleeping to really allow yourself more support as you're asleep. And then supporting your vagus nerve, that long cranial nerve. And we have another episode on that. There's a lot of research that needs to be done in that area because there's so much we don't necessarily know. But if you look at our channel, we do have an episode on vagus nerve if you want to go deeper into that. So then thinking about those daily routines, right? These are things that are in place every day. How do you actually regulate when you know the body's more stressed, right? So those are daily, but what happens in periods of stress or in moments where you know that this is heightened and you want to calm this back down? So in the moment, one of the most powerful things that you can do is actually use your breath. Deep, slow, diaphragmatic breaths have been shown to help bring the nervous system back into that rest and digest state. And what you're looking for as kind of a cue that you may be getting there is you can look for that hyperactivity in your brain. You should feel that calmness in your body, but you can also assess your heart rate. Your heart is going to start beating faster when you're in a stress state. And so you can put your hand on your heart as you're breathing and kind of monitor the heart rate coming back down. So a way to do this is to your diaphragm's right at the base of your lungs. So think about your lungs expanding like an umbrella in every direction, all the way down to the base of your belly button, right? So take a deep breath in for 4. Hold with that breath in for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Inhale. And then repeat. So taking that box breathing, nice and slow, deep breaths that can help bring you back and regulate. You can also use heart tapping or brain tapping. And this is a physical way to kind of slow your body down. This is something you can do in addition to the breath. What you're thinking about is tapping slowly. So again, trying to almost viscerally bring your heart rate back down. Some other things that you can do, more not necessarily in the moment to just like bring yourself back really quickly, but if you notice, let's say you have a day that's more stressful, or you're going through a really stressful time at work, or something's happened that's really thrown you off or created more stress in your life, right? You're trying to kind of regulate yourself back over days. more mindfulness and grounding exercises can be helpful. This could be meditation. This can also be just connection to your environment, a hobby, anything that helps kind of bring you into like in your present, right? We're not in the past, we're not in the future, we're in the present. Gentle movement like yoga, stretching, walking that we talked about, that daily movement. Maybe you add in more of that. You go on a walk. Cold water splash on your face, or even a cold shower every day. That can help kind of break some of that cycle. Getting enough sunshine in order to have more serotonin boost. Spending time with somebody that you love, with your friends. Leaning into a spiritual practice, which kind of leans back into mindfulness and grounding, and then even just added relaxation. So increasing that self-care relaxation strategies that you have available to you. That might look like a warm bath or meditation or whatever, but it could also just look like laying on the couch and watching TV if that does truly help you just kind of ground and relax in your body. So this isn't necessarily everything that you could completely do. And I know there's a lot of individualization to this because what is throwing your nervous system off is going to look so different. But what I can say is that these are tools that you can start with. And these are really powerful tools to build off of because they are going to support your digestion from a functional level, but also be tools that you can use in the moment with your intuition of what's going on in your life in order to keep your management of your symptoms more sustainable. So often I hear, clients come in or people through, social media or our channels who say like, oh, well, I, eat my safe foods every day and then they still don't work sometimes, right? Or usually this is okay for me, but then I had this flare that came out of nowhere. I don't know what happened. And it makes you feel really confused and doubtful that the plan that you have is working. Often what's missing in that piece that's a little bit off is this nervous system piece. And typically, right, it's not that extreme version of being in the stress state, but it's that little inch towards stress over a week, 2 weeks, and then the gut's now responding, right? Because that capacity of digestion has been decreased and at a low mode, which is working against you. So it's really important to take the information from this and think about it in terms of what you've experienced and what you experience day to day to build your own awareness, which then builds your intention, which then you can act on in order to have more sustainability in your control of your symptoms. This is something that we teach in depth and we guide you in the Master Method membership. This is not a huge plug for that, but if you are interested in going deeper into this, if you need more support with this and you need more of a holistic plan for addressing symptoms, IBS is what it's created for. IBS-like symptoms, IBS-like side of other GI conditions. It'll address, all of that. You'll find all of that information in the show notes, and we would love to have you in the membership to continue supporting you. But even outside of that, just really think about how this applies to you and how you can apply this in your everyday life. Thank you for tuning in again. I'm always just grateful that you would take any time to listen. I hope this is valuable for you today. Come back next week and we will talk a little bit more about SIBO, which is very exciting. And then check out some of our past episodes. If you really enjoyed this conversation and you haven't listened to some of our past seasons or even other episodes in this season, take a moment, go through, scroll through and see what stands out to you. You never know what little gems that you'll find that will teach you more about your body and empower you more in your journey. Are you struggling with frustrating GI symptoms, gut issues, or maybe even IBS, and you really need support and guidance from a well-trained, qualified professional? If that is you, the Gut of 8 team of dietitians may be exactly what you are looking for. We personalize every plan for our clients based on their assessment, their medical history, and what actually is working or not working in their body. We do this through close follow-ups every 2 to 3 weeks, all virtual. We also do weekly check-ins on every single client, and we are available for our clients through email and messaging support throughout the week and their entire program. Imagine this to be that hand-in-hand care that helps you reach your goals more efficiently, but also with more confidence and knowledge that you can use throughout the rest of your life. If that is what you are looking for, you can start with a consult call where we can talk a bit more about your history, what you're looking for, what you need, and if we can help. You can find the link to schedule a consult call in the show notes if you are interested. We can't wait to talk to you, and we hope to work with you to help you reach your goals.